Okay, it's 4:00. I will start the forum now. My name is Paula Grisanti, and I am Voter Service Chair for the Lane County League of Women Voters. I would like to welcome the two candidates for House District 9 on behalf of our sponsors, the League of Women Voters of Lane County, Umpqua Valley, and Coos Bay, and the public libraries of Coos Bay, North Bend, and the Siaslo Public Library District, and to thank Representative Boomer Wright and Jerry Rust for participating in today's forum. We also welcome our audience and thank you for taking the time to learn about your candidate's position. The League is a nonpartisan organization that has been registering and educating voters, fostering civil discourse, and supporting voter rights since its establishment in 1920. We encourage informed and active participation in government. The libraries do not endorse any candidate or political views, but do partner with nonpartisan organizations to provide information that serves library patients and voters throughout the communities of the House District 9. Today's forum will allow candidates a 3-minute opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement. Each question will go to both candidates, who will be given 90 seconds to respond. We will proceed in alphabetical order for opening statements and reverse alphabetical order for closing statements. Questions will be asked starting in alphabetical order and alternating who answers first between the candidates. The audience may post questions for the candidates on the Q&A function of the webinar. We ask that out of respect for the audience and each of the candidates adhere to the time allotted. You'll be muted if you exceed that time. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator, the Honorable Judge Richard Brissenden. For the last 25 years, he has been the judge in the Florence Municipal Court, and for 12 of those years, he was also municipal judge in the city of Cottage Grove. Prior to that, he served as municipal judge pro tem for the city of Eugene. Since 2016, he has served as a justice of the peace for the Lane County Justice Court and has provided mediation services in foreclosure cases for Neighbor to Neighbor in Salem. He has also served on the Lane County Domestic Violence Council for over 2 decades. Judge Brissenden, I'll turn the meeting over to you now.
Thank you very much. Welcome to everyone tuning in, and welcome to the candidates. We'll begin with opening statements, and the first opening statement will be for Mr. Rust.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Representative Wright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the libraries, the public libraries of Florence, Reedsport, Coos Bay, North Bend. I'm Jerry Rust, and I live on the Siaslo River. I grew up on the Umpqua. I have a family, 3 children, graduate from the University of Oregon, went on through the Peace Corps, started a large business planting trees, and then served for 20 years as Lane County Commissioner, where we covered everything from covered bridges to the criminal justice system. Big job. I think these life experiences have prepared me for this challenge. Today, I am asking you to hire me. If you're a voter in the 9th District, I want you to be my employer. I want to be your representative. I want to serve. And I've been listening to the people of this great district, one of the most beautiful in the United States. And here's what I learned. 1, people are tired of squabbling and intra-party fighting. They want to get things done. They want people to work together. They want a nonpartisan approach to our politics in Salem. Number 2, there's a tremendous pent-up desire to do something. We've been cooped up for 2 years, 3 years with COVID. People are wanting to do things. Specifically, they want more housing, affordable housing. I have a plan. I know some ways to get that done. I'm in favor of smart growth, just like most people realize that we're going to have an influx of people. We can't do anything unless we do it well, do it smartly, do it in tune with the environment. dollars. There is going to be a huge amount of federal dollars heading our way. It's already here in the form of money that will be used for watershed restoration, getting some more of our fish runs restored, building green energy projects, renewable energy, making facilities available for our youth. And number 4, we've got to keep in the back of our mind while all of this expansion takes place in our port and other places, we need to keep pace with our educational system and with our hospitals. We've had some problems, especially with mental health. So I'm asking you today for your vote. I'd love to be your representative. I'd love to be part of this great success story. Thank you very much.
Very good. Closing or opening statement, Mr. Wright.
Well, first off, thank you, candidate Rust, Paula, the League of Women Voters and District Libraries for the invitation and the opportunity to be part of this important forum. I am Representative Wright, and I've lived on the beautiful Oregon coast for over 50 years and presently represent House District 9. Susan, my wonderful wife of 30 years, and I live near Reedsport with our dog Winston and cat Marvin. We have 4 children and 7 grandchildren, and you can never have too many grandchildren. As such, my focus is always on family, faith, and freedom, which are the major things that we believe in. After running for office and then having the honor of being elected to represent District 9, we have served on the State House Education, Early Childhood Education, Behavioral Health, Veterans, and Emergency Management Committees. In addition, we also serve on 3 work groups, Rail, Broadband, and State Gaming. The sessions are very busy and productive, and we worked very hard for District 9, passing bills concerning the Bottle Bill Green Bag Program, both in Coos Bay and in Florence. ODOT grants to help our veterans get needed transportation to any medical facility necessary to support them. In addition, we requested, supported, and were granted over $16 million in ARPA and general funds for the Port of Coos Bay's rail and marine hub, approximately $600,000 to the Little Theater on the Bay for renovations, funding to reopen the Coos Bay Pool, $14 million for Lakeside for a wastewater treatment plant, over $1 million to Mapleton for a water system overhaul, $1 million to Reedsport for their Umpqua levee renovation, and finally, $600,000 to update the Southwest Oregon Community College Fire Personnel Training Center. We have done a lot together and have been very successful during this first term for this district. We advocate for limited government, physical and personal liberty and responsibility, religious freedom, free markets, local control, and a strong national defense. We believe that all children deserve access to a quality education, and we must always support what is in the best interest of our children. Parental rights don't end at the schoolhouse door, and we believe parents are in the best position to determine what is a quality education for their children. We believe families and individuals have the sole responsibility and the right to make their own healthcare decisions. Together, we must demand local, county, state, and federal government protect our individual rights, our freedoms, and our private property. All law-abiding citizens have the right to keep and bear arms. Freedom of religion and the rights of conscience are unalienable rights. Equity should always be a consideration in our workplace, and inclusion and diversity honored to include all on an equal basis as we strive for equitable opportunity for all Oregonians. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good. All right, first question, and this we will begin here with Mr. Rust. And the question is, if elected, what are your top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priorities are seniors, veterans, children, and women's health care. Ooh, that's 4. But, you know, those are just generally across the board. I think older people have worked all their lives. They need respect and care at the last 20 years of their life. I want to help keep seniors in their homes. I think youth could use more things to do, and we have plenty of wonderful places in the 9th District. Veterans have paid a price. I think veterans deserve our support. And in women's health care, I think women should be allowed to make their own decisions about their own health care choices. And I believe my opponent does not believe that when it comes to pregnancy. Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
Yes, well, thank you. After talking to my constituents and listening to them, I believe that the three most important are crime, healthcare, and education. Crime, we have defunded the police, and so we need to return funding to that and also to our court systems. Right now, we're lacking judges, as you well know, I'm sure, Judge, and we need the support for that in our system. Also, homelessness is the other one, and I'm working with groups down in Coos Bay, in particular, to come up with a plan so that we can reach a commonality locally, and then come to the state with a plan for homelessness. Unfortunately, right now, homelessness does not have a home in Salem, but we need to fix that. Education, I've served education for over 31 years. We're not serving our students correctly right now, and in fact, we're failing our children. So we need to concentrate, make sure that we have a new direction for our education, public education especially, and give our parents a choice. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. Can you please list some of your endorsements? And that would be Mr. Wright would begin this.
Okay. The endorsements I have are from the Oregon Farm Bureau Federation, Oregon Sportsman Association, the Oregon Family Farm Association, Defend Small Business PAC, National Federation of Independent Businesses, Crime Victims United, Oregon Right to Life, Ag PAC, Associated Oregon Loggers, Oregon Nurseries PAC, Oregonians for Food and Shelter, Timber Unity, Oregon Chiefs of Police Association, Sheriffs of Oregon, and Vicki Breeze Iverson, the Oregon House Republican leader. Thank you.
Same question, Mr. Russ.
Yeah, I received the endorsement of Senator Wyden, Representative Peter DeFazio, the Attorney General of Oregon, Ellen Rosenblum, the State Representative House Majority Leader, Julie Fahey, Pro-Choice Oregon, Future PAC, AFSCME, that's the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, Coos, Douglas, Lane County, the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party of Oregon. There are others, but that's a partial list. Thank you.
Okay. Next question, and this will be for Mr. Russ, you'll be the first on this one, is why is our public education system failing our children?
Well, let's not be too hard on ourselves. I hear everybody say, or people say, our kids aren't getting education. That's not true. Yeah, there are problems. There are challenges. We lost 2.5 years with COVID, but from what I've had kids in the school system here in the Siuslaw, what I want is the basics: reading, writing, mathematics. I do think we could include some vocational training in our schools, because in this school district, only 20% go on to college. So there needs to be some skill building at the high school level that's beyond just the academic. I think we may be doing a little too much testing, but we need that in order to find out where we are. But I reject the idea that we're failing, because I know these teachers and they're working hard. Thank you.
you. Mr. Wright?
Well, serving on the state education and early childhood education committees, I view the fundamental problem with Oregon education is we have asked the teachers to be all things to all students at all time. We have asked our teachers to do too much publicly. Public education was never meant to be the political football for whatever new political ideology is presently in vogue. It was never meant to solve all the ills of society, but provide an attainment of the ability to read and comprehend, writing, math, basic civic education that strengthens the individual to positively join society and support our Constitution. Many of our students are failing, but more importantly, we're failing our students. To support our children in gaining a civic education, we must return to a community direction. It does take an entire community to support the education of our children. There must be a tight coordination between public, nonprofit, and private stakeholders, and a clear path for workforce development for both college-bound and the trades developed by each community. Each community is well aware of what the needs are toward workforce and retention of our youth in the community. The state has failed and the local school districts can't or won't do it alone. We need a fully committed community direction. We just need to let the community lead, not follow. Thank you.
Next question, it will begin with Mr. Wright. Many states are moving toward the use of independent redistricting committees to redraw district lines. Do you support establishment of an IRC for Oregon? If not, why not?
Judge, absolutely. It's we the people that should determine where the districts are, not a group of people in Salem as the gerrymandering happened during this last session. Our Speaker of the House, Tina Kotek, failed us. She lied to us about redistricting, and so we are where we are now. It should not be a political gerrymandering. It should be to represent the people. And to be very honest, the legislature and the House and Senate failed us. We need a committee, a reasonable committee of people to choose the district. Thank you.
Mr. Rust.
Yes, thank you. You know, this is a national problem and it's a disgrace the way we have drawn districts throughout the country, really, and in some states much worse than here. I would like to take a look at an independent commission, and if I get to Salem, I'll certainly consider that strongly. But I'm against the gerrymandering. However, I will say one thing. This District 9 has a lot of logic to it. There are three great rivers, Coos, Umpqua, Siuslaw, and we've cut this down the coastline from Coos Bay up to Florence, the most beautiful district in the world. So whatever gerrymandering they did, and they did, this is a great district. The people are great. The country is great. So yeah, let's go to something more. My name is, let's make it nonpartisan. Let's do things right that the people can accept, and we don't have to change our registration every time the legislature gets through. Thank you very much.
Next question, and Mr. Rust will begin this. What is your current stance on the decline of our coastal fisheries?
Well, it's a very complex issue, and I know we have ocean conditions which are a result of very, very complex factors. And we've learned here in the Siuslaw, we can't catch fish this year because of the ocean conditions. But you know, it's more complex. It starts at the headwaters also, where we have taken out fish runs. We haven't put the the spawning beds back in good enough shape. There are still hundreds of miles of fishery habitat that could be opened up. One of the things I want to do is make sure we continue removing these culverts. We've done the easy ones. Now we've got to go and open them up for the next phase of fish recovery. There's got to be room for some fish hatchery work as well. And I would stimulate that. I'd work with tribes, with our local watershed councils, with Save Our Salmon, steelheaders. I want to support all those groups, and I see no reason why this most productive salmon fishery cannot be brought back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Wright, same question.
Thank you. Our salmon fisheries are definitely in decline on some of our coastal streams. We need abundance through hatcheries and not an ODF and W commission that does not support abundance. Our coastal communities' dependence on this billion-dollar industry is in jeopardy. We do not need another spotted owl fiasco that resulted in the closure of our federal forests, decimated coastal schools and families, businesses and communities, and the coastal economy. We on the coast are still recovering from this environmental injustice and insanity. How has that worked out? Fortunately, working with the Coquille tribe and other tribes, we're working with the ODF&W to bring back salmon runs to our streams and rivers. I commend the tribe's efforts as I collaborate with them to bring back balance and abundant fisheries using hatcheries as the vehicle. Far too long have we ignored the importance of hatcheries to increase abundance for commercial, angling, and environmental purposes to our peril. We have extinction issues on some of our streams and rivers, and the ODF&W Commission out of control. We need a new direction. Alaska, Washington, and California have placed hatcheries as a priority to provide abundance in their rivers and streams. They are being successful. We must make them our priority also. Thank you.
All right. Next question. What is the state's role in ensuring that high-speed internet is available and affordable for the state's population, both urban and rural? Mr. Wright.
Well, thank you for that question. Being on the broadband committee, I've been working with the group to try to figure out how best to get broadband to all our district people. Right now, the holdup is funding from the federal government and also a specific plan. Like I said, I'm working with the broadband committee right now on a plan to make sure that we get the benefit of broadband to people that are in need, and particularly that have children, so they can benefit from use of the internet for their schoolwork and things like that. So right now we're waiting on money. We'll have a plan soon, and we'll get broadband to those in need. Thank you.
Mr. Rust, same question.
Yeah, I listened to the debate 2 years ago, and Mr. Wright gave much the same answer that he did then. And I know that all the low-hanging fruit has already been picked because when I was Lane County Commissioner, we got the BPA broadband down to Florence, and it was extended on down the coast. So the coastal areas are fairly well served, but it's the interior spots that we need to work on. And that is a combination of hard wire, radio, waves, and other technologies. I can't wait to get in there and make a difference on this issue because yes, this is the lifeline for people who are remotely stuck that need it, purchasing, medicine, education, entertainment, and small business startups right from their own home. This is important. This is vital. This is the 21st century. I promise to be there for those people. In 2 years, I hope that we won't hear the same thing. Well, we're working on it. No, let's do it. Let's get it done.
All right. Next question. Could you expand on what exactly is community education? Who are the key stakeholders and how do you propose the key stakeholders begin to work together? Mr. Rust.
Community education. Well, of course, you start with your public school system. You have charter schools. There are religious schools, vocational schools. All of the above are necessary. I have to say that we need parents and volunteers to get involved. We don't have enough teachers right now. We need people to step up and help. We can volunteer. You can read to kids. Kids really respond to just reading them a book. I hope everybody might take some time out of their life next year in order to volunteer some of these areas and help our children get past this 2-year lag of missing out and actually getting past it to the next level. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wright.
Well, community education is basically what it says, a community. A community has to support their children in a variety of ways, whether that's obviously public schools, obviously public other facilities, people in the community. I don't think we're using the people in our community who have experience in a variety of trades very well. I think we need to bring those into the schools. Not only the public schools, but community colleges are equally important. And I don't think we utilize them as well as we should. Like I said, it takes a community effort, takes everybody in the community. And I totally agree with Jerry that we should have volunteers in our schools and parents thoroughly involved. They've been basically excluded in a lot of places. And we need to make sure that parents come in and are a vital part of it. After all, parents are the major teacher in each of their children's lives. And we need to make sure we remember that. Thank you.
Very good. Next question. What are your suggestions for lessening the partisan divide? Mr. Wright.
That's a good question. Thank you. I appreciate that. The key is that we've got to learn again to listen to one another. And what happens sometimes is we listen, but we don't hear. The concept between our divide is that we don't sit down and communicate each of our levels of understanding. And when we don't do that, and we don't listen to one another, then what happens is that we have things like what's happening in Portland right now with the crime and the violence. We're not listening to people. I mean, if we take a look at what's happening in Portland and basically people not listening to one another, defunding the police and those kinds of things, particularly when the people say we need to fund the police and they don't, then that's when things like that happen. We need to listen to one another. You know, it was said at one time that the difference between America and most of the other countries is that we have the ability and we use compromise. We may not get everything that we want individually or collectively, but each of us gets something that we can work on. So I think we should go back and make sure that we understand that from now on, Oregon needs to work toward compromise. Thank you.
Mr. Rust.
Thank you very much. This is something I heard everywhere I've gone in the district. People are sick and tired of bickering, rancorous name calling. Let me tell you, as Lane County Commissioner, everything I got done, including fixing up all of 20 of our covered bridges and then going on to lead the fight to save the entire state's covered bridges. I did that with Democrats, Republicans, and independents. I remember Senator May Yee sponsoring the bill that got us the money to fix those bridges. But I am not one for rancorous name calling and blaming state agencies and blaming other people in government. That leads to things like the walkout and the boycott, where the political parties can't even sit still in the same chamber to get the people's business done. That's unacceptable. And one thing I'd like to ask Boomer, maybe you've changed your mind, because 2 years ago, you were all for the walkout and you said so during this debate. Maybe you've changed your mind. But in general, we need to bring the temperature down, sit together, reason together, and come together. As a state, we can do it. Thank you.
Next question. If elected, do you support a lowering of tuition at Oregon State colleges?
Who's that to?
That is to you, Mr. Russ.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I should have said that.
Yeah, in general, I support lowering the tuition. I look back at my own college education. It was so inexpensive. And then, of course, I worked to help fill in that other piece of the financial puzzle. But yeah, let's bring it down for in-state students. We might even want to have a means test. Some kids can afford it more than others. And we might want to see a means test so that we can definitely get lower income people, marginal people, and students from communities that don't have a lot of money. Give them a chance by lowering tuition in general. I also support expanding the offerings in community colleges, because let's face it, oftentimes that's where many of our kids will go to get their first year or two before they go on to the university. So I'd look at the whole gamut, but in general, I want to see affordable education. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Wright?
Yes, I agree. We've got to lower the price of education. I don't believe it ever can be absolutely free. That's too bad. But things cost money and people need to be paid for their services. However, I believe that we're not using or utilizing our community colleges as much as we should. They're much more affordable in local communities, and maybe we need to expand the concept of having even more community colleges in more areas, particularly the rural areas, which are really left out in most cases. In my district, Southwest Oregon Community College and Lane Community College provide a wonderful service. And I think we need to help them in any way we can to make sure that kids have the opportunity to go to school. Yes, I believe that we need to reduce tuitions. Education in our colleges is becoming way too expensive. Thank you.
Next question, and this will begin with Mr. Wright. What kind of actions do you think will need to be taken by the state as a result of the economic disruption caused by the pandemic and regional wildfires to help local businesses?
Well, thank you for the question. A lot of it has to do with regulations and restrictions, taxes, like the cat tax, which has really punished our businesses over the last number of years. Also, as far as wildfires are concerned, we need to make sure that in our emergency fund at the state level, we have money available to help people for those for those instances like we did in the past Labor Day fires. We have a problem with our federal government mismanaging our forests, and as such, many of the fires are beginning there and moving into the state and private forests. We need to work with the federal government a little closer to make sure we have better management techniques within our forest. So those actions I think will help, but overall, I think we have too much government. Government seems to get in the way. And as it was once stated by our President Reagan, government isn't the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. Thank you.
Mr. Rust.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think you'd find that most of the wildfires, the vast majority burned in even-aged managed stands, and some of those older forests are more residual than that. But again, the question is about economics and what can the state do? One thing the state can do for sure is to manage this enormous amount of money that is coming our way. It's coming through the federal pipeline into the Forest Service, the BLM, to state government. It will help us restore fisheries, make green energy projects, and a number of other things. So I think one of the key things we need to do is manage that money. Can you spell boondoggle? I can, and I don't want to see any of them under my watch. We're going to watch, we're going to help, we're going to get people connected with this money. You know, I had a saying when I was Lane County Commissioner, and that was, find a way to say yes. People want to use their property. They want to build. They want to start a business. Any number of things that the state is involved in. We need the attitude, yes. Let's get to yes. Let's find a way to say yes, and let's make this state move. Thank you very much.
Next question, and this will be first to Mr. Rust. What is your position on ballot measure 113, prompted by the walkout of Republican legislators to kill legislation?
Well, of course, I'm going to vote for it, yes, and I do believe there should be punishment. If you get elected to go to Salem, to sit in committee, and to vote, you're taking care of the most vital interests of the people of this state. And I think if ordinary people don't show up for work, they don't get paid. If they don't show up for work, eventually they'll lose your job. And I asked Representative Wright a few minutes ago if he's changed his mind about that, because he was a proponent. I heard him twice during the debate extol the reasons why we have to walk out. You don't have to walk out. I don't agree with everything the Supreme Court justices say, but it's the law of the land. I respect it, and I'm not just going to walk away from it. So, Mr. Wright, have you changed your mind, or would you boycott a session again if you don't get your way? Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
Excuse me, you think I'd learn after all these times I've turned my microphone off? Well, Jerry, you know, there's something to be said about believing that you have the right to protest. And that sometimes, because you have a supermajority like we have in the Senate and the legislature right now, that they don't leave you a choice. They're ramming down their agenda, a liberal agenda on people, and you have no choice but to walk away because they're going to pass bills that are not for your district or your people. We have the right to be able to protest majority rule legislation when it's not in our best interest of our constituents or district. And both Democrats and Republicans have availed this right to dissent. The majority party does not have the right to determine who should be excluded from re-election solely based on attendance. We're not in grade school, Jerry. We're adults. Our federal and state constitution protects the right to protest free speech. Let's continue to honor free speech in Oregon and seriously discuss unintended consequences before passage of a measure like 113. Thank you.
Next question. What should Oregon state government be doing to provide for the safety and resilience of our residents and infrastructure in the face of climate change impacts, drought, wildfires, floods, etc.? Mr. Wright.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, obviously our weather is changing and we're obviously not preparing quickly enough for the inevitable earthquakes and wildfires. Serving on our Veterans and Emergency Management Committee, we are continuing to work on getting supplies and equipment readily available, particularly to the Oregon coast. Additional funding is necessary and we'll continue to fight for climate preparedness. Our forests, both federal and state, and resulted mismanagement have really intensified the harm on wildfires. Many fires have started and spread from federal forests to state and private forests. To protect communities like those in Labor Day fires, we must open our forests to better management, including appropriate harvests. Thank you.
Mr. Rust.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a critical issue for our future, and it's finally caught up with us. We've got drought. I've seen the map. It's moving up slowly. We are in an enviable position. In fact, this district, maybe most people don't know it, but we have 2 clear lake water reserves, big lakes that are off limits for recreation, housing, and the like. And we are so fortunate and so blessed. But we've got to watch out because the drought looks like it's going to continue. Wildfires are going to be a normal part of our life, and we need to protect everybody. We need to get the perimeters around people's houses correct. We need to prevent wildfires, and we actually need wildfire-ready crews in our districts, our forested districts, to get on them fast. 2 years ago, we had a fire here in Mapleton, and no one came. It was started by an arsonist, and it smoldered and smoldered. 2 days later, they got on it, but it was already out of control and it burned for a couple of weeks. We need to get on these fires fast. There's much more to say about that, but my time is up, and thank you very much.
Okay, good. Let's see. Next question, and Mr. Rust, you will start this off. How would you provide education for trade and skilled labor to help directly in your district?
Thank you very much. This is one of the ideas that I've had in the course of this campaign, and I've known it for a long time. When I was at Glide High School on the Umpqua, we had a shop. We had a big shop, woodworking shop, and I took that. We had other classes like home economics and culinary skills, and some of the kids from my high school came out of there and went straight to work. I used those carpenter skills that I learned in high school as part of my summer program to raise money for college. I think the community colleges are the backbone of our training system, of our continuing education system, and our ability to get some vocational training, and cooperating with high schools we can give our kids a leg up when it comes to getting the kind of skills they need to compete in 21st century job market. And there are a lot of those skills that need to be acquired and acquired quickly. But I would look to our high schools, vocational training, and our community college system, and I'd bolster that system, especially here on the coast where we don't have the kind of offerings that are given in the valley. Thank you.
Mr. Wright.
Well, thank you for that question. I'm sorry Jerry isn't well aware of what's happening in our coastal communities concerning the trade programs that we have. I am so encouraged by people like North Bend High School, who is working not only with a program there for construction, but other trades. There are also other organizations locally in Coos County that are helping kids experience the various trades going on. Yes, we used to have those things at our schools, and unfortunately, budgets were cut, and unfortunately, those kinds of things happened. I would encourage to see what happens in the Siuslaw School District and about what they're doing as far as promoting trades. Yes, community colleges are vitally important, and so are with apprenticeship programs, so that we have a combination of working with the local community, the business people who are so vital to our communities in their experience level to make sure our students have the information and they get the experience to be able to do things in the real world. Yes, only about 20% of our kids graduated go to college necessarily, but I'll tell you what, right now we need plumbers, we need electricians, we need carpenters, we need painters, we need all those trades that make sure to make the coast an environment that people will want to come to and stay. So thank you.
Okay, next question. This may be our last, given the time. And this would be for Mr. Wright first. What is your opinion of using ranked choice or STAR, S-T-A-R, voting in state and local elections?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. I don't know a lot about that at this time. I know that Alaska has used it. I know that there was one, I believe, county in Oregon that has used this format. So I'm not going to comment too much on that until I know a whole lot more. I think we need to always make sure that our constituents have the information and the right to vote for whoever they want to. And if we always do that, if our mail-in voting is always up to what it should be, then actually I think we're doing a great job. But right now, I'll stop at that and say I need more information before I say one way or another. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rust?
As of today, I'm still not a fan of that type of voting, and I think it's confusing. I'm kind of with Boomer on that. So I'm not going to endorse it right off. I'd have to know more about it. I'm not going to endorse it yet till I know more completely. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I think we've got time for one more. So let's see, this will go to Mr. Rust first. Would you consider steps to tackle Oregon's shortage of teachers? For example, by allowing teachers without state licenses to work in Oregon, or allowing PhDs to teach in high schools without going back to receive more education?
Yeah, I think we're going to be forced to do things like that. I don't want to use the word forced. I want to say, here's an opportunity. We have an untapped source of human resource, human capital. Let's make use of it. I mentioned earlier that we can use volunteers and parents. And I think we should look at all those academic degrees that may not be completely necessary. And there are ways to merge students or teachers into the classroom without taking complete control. So yeah, I think we should play around with that. I don't think any union should stay in the way of it. And I think we just need to be thinking about, how do we deliver the most quality education, the most thorough education for the kids of our state? That's what we ought to be aiming for. And we'll use and by the way, this isn't just in education. We need volunteers and retirees from virtually every sector to step up. Us old guys have still got some, we still got some thing to give. And that could include education, that might be nursing, that might be some other things, Let's use all of our talent and all of our human resources in Oregon. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wright.
Well, there are some wonderful programs around the country. I'll use an example of Tennessee right now, which has a new teacher program that basically is kind of like the old GI Bill, that if you'll teach for a certain length of time, actually your tuition and books would be paid for eventually. So I think there are programs around there. Apprenticeship programs like that, I think, are really important. We could grow our own, as was mentioned. Basically, what could happen is that the people in the community who are interested in teaching can get some basic experience by volunteering. They could do an associate program and bring them back into the classrooms, and then get a further experience from that, and then go to college and finish up their degree later on with help from the school district. The trades, obviously, we can take advantage of people who have the experience, like Jerry and I, who have wonderful experience in our background, and making sure that we can help kids with a variety of things. So again, grow your own apprentice programs. Those kinds of things are going to be vitally important. We're losing 10% of our teachers every year just in basically retirement. So we need to upgrade what we're trying to do at the college level, streamline the process, and make sure teachers who care about their kids get where they need to be. And Jerry's right. We need to make sure our kids get what they deserve, the best education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for those answers to questions. And now it is time to go to closing statements. And Mr. Wright, you are first up. 2 minutes each.
Closing statements. Okay, I'm on. For the last 10 years, we've had no checks and balances on the party in power in Salem. We have become just another blue state in crisis. Our agencies are out of control with no oversight. Homelessness is rampant. Public education is failing our children. Inadequate housing statewide limits hiring workforce and adds homelessness. Oregon ranks 48th in support to services for the behavioral and mental health. Our fisheries are in decline. Inflation is just another tax in an agenda of tax and overspend. We need a consistent plan for climate change and forest management that balances not only the environment, but must include the serious social and economic impact on humanity as equally important. In November, it's time to vote for people who want to solve these problems, not cause more feel-good policies, more taxes, and end up with bad news. As a legislature, you are very naive if you think you're going to accomplish much individually. The focus must always be on we, not I. Through meetings, emails, letters, suggestions, ideas, requests, advice, we have attained some remarkable accomplishments together in the last 2 years. We have secured $32 million to help the economy for this wonderful district, including green bag distribution sites in Florence and Coos Bay, support for the Port of Coos Bay's Marine Rail Terminal, local pool reopenings, renovation of the Little Theater on the Bay, support for local libraries and wastewater treatment facility in Lakeside, renovation of fire training facility at SWAC, stabilization money for the river levee in Reedsport, and renovations of local water system in Mapleton. We did all this together, and we can accomplish much, much more in the next 2 years. I ask for your vote and continued support so we can accomplish even more for all of District 9 in Oregon. Thank you and God bless.
Mr. Rust.
Thank you again, everyone. I really appreciate this time. Mr. Wright, I'll see you Wednesday down in Coos Bay for another one of our continuing discussions. Looking forward to it. Judge, thank you for conducting us here. You know, there are some differences between Boomer and I want to be positive, and I will. But first of all, let me reiterate, I trust women to make their own healthcare decisions. I gave Boomer a chance to answer that, but I believe he's not for choice, and he doesn't trust women to make their own choices for healthcare. He's also said that he is in favor of a walkout, that he believes that's a protest. It's not a protest. That's a job. Protest is when you go outside on the street, outside the State House, then you protest, you hold up your sign and you protest. When you're sent to Salem, you go there to do your job, and that's to vote for the people's legislation. My message is, folks, let's come together. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to be a positive force for this district and use nonpartisan methods to accomplish our work, because people are tired of squabbling and bickering. We don't need to fight all the time. We can get some things done. I can restore some clout for the 9th district. If my research is correct, Boomer introduced 7 bills. Not one of them got out of committee. I can restore the clout to our district, and I'll be proud to serve and represent you. And I am asking you for your vote. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ms.
Okay.
Grisanti?
I would like to thank everyone who participated in this forum, the candidates and the audience. I'd also like to thank our co-sponsors and Judge Brissenden. The link to a recording of this forum will be available on the League of Women Voters of Lane County's webpage, as well as the web pages or YouTube channels of our co-sponsors. Good evening, everybody, and thank you again.
Thank you.